All right, so first off, I want to say all praise to Yahweh in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. I also want to say double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short. And also I want to say shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel who are in these days, all right, hopeful. Okay, Lord willing, I am of that number. Okay, so maybe you can tell by the title of the video, what we're going to speak about here is Edom's hatred, or the blueprint of Edom's hatred. Okay, and what made me think of this was reading in the book of Esther, and also, all right, seeing some things that are going on in this world, as far as close to home, with people trying to come against this truth. All right, new people, and people that have been coming against this truth for a while now. All right, this is what made me think of Edom's hatred altogether. Okay, so before we get to Esther, and speaking of the character in that book, Haman. All right, what I want to do is start with where the root of this division started. All right, trying to go back and get an understanding of why this hatred exists. Okay, and the reason why it exists is because the Lord spoke it into existence. He spoke this contrary relationship between Esau and Jacob into existence right from the womb of Rebekah. And you can find that in Genesis. Here, I'm going to go here. Genesis 25. Hold on a second. All right, let's get in here. Genesis 25 and all right, let's start at 24. The subheading above verse 24 reads, "The birth of Esau and Jacob." Okay. Verse 24 reads, "And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled," speaking about Rebekah, it says, "Behold, there were twins in her womb." Jacob and Esau being brothers. All right, twins. All right, verse 25 says, "And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau." All right, red, or in the Paleo Hebrew, Ishashua. All right, he that is wasted away. Okay, and the red garment, all right, speaks of the dyed garments that we used to wear in the ancient days, being dyed red. All right, uh, and they are really transparent because you can see the blood through their skin, all right, which makes them red. Okay, so verse back in here in verse 23. Let's go back. Excuse me. All right, let's go backwards to 23. It says, "And the Lord said unto her," Rebekah, okay, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." All right, so ultimately, this is the foundation of um, the self-called and so-called white man. All right, Esau, Edom, and the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. Again, those are where the bulk of the Israelites are. All right, and Esau is where the bulk of the Edomites are. Okay, this is where it is told, okay, that we have completely opposite spirits. All right, it also points out our physical uh, difference and also our spiritual difference. All right, we are contrary to each other, which is why we cannot seem to compromise, right, or find true peace, especially in this world that's ran by Esau's power structure. All right, Lord pronounced this all the way back here in Genesis. So this is where it stems from. All right, so now let's go to Esther. Okay, hold on a second. We're going to go to visit Esther, the third chapter. Okay. All right. This is Esther chapter. We're going to go to chapter 3. Okay, we can start at 1 and we're going to read to 2. All right, the heading above verse 1 reads The Conspiracy of Haman. All right. So you have to remember the spirit of the two people that we're speaking about, all right, Esau and Jacob, and Haman embodies, all right, the Esau's hatred for us. All right. Okay, so Esther chapter 3, verse 1, it says, After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Okay, Agagite going back to Agag, who was a king of the Amalekites, right? He was an Amalekite. So Haman goes back to that lineage. Okay, so let me start all over again. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. Verse 2 reads, And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. All right, so in the ancient world, Haman, all right, demanded total submission. All right, he wanted people to bow down to him. But Mordecai, as we just read here, who is an Israelite, he refused to bow down or show reverence to Haman, who was an Edomite. Right, Amalekites being, or Amalek being the grandson of Esau. Okay, uh, so Mordecai did this. All right, he defied him because he knew the history of our people. Okay, he knew the laws. Okay, and he knew that Yahweh, Baal Shem Yahweh Shai, has sworn a perpetual war against the top line of Esau. All right, you can find this in Exodus. Let's go back here. This is Exodus. Hold on a second here. Thank you. Salakia, hold on for a second here. All right, so if you go back here to Exodus chapter 17, I have to put this mic on my, hold on for a second. Let me put this mic on. I'm trying to do this with one hand when I don't have to. All right, so let's go back to Exodus. This is Exodus chapter 17 and verse 16. It reads, "For he said, because Yahweh Bashim Shai hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." All right, so this is exactly what is going on today. All right, when you awaken as in your true identity, okay, when you start putting on fringes, you start learning about the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Shai, you start going through the history, all right, learning more and more. All right, you begin to refuse to bow uh, to this world. All right, you refuse to start to keep walking in these customs. All right, that ultimately are wicked. This includes birthdays, holidays, all right, all these ideologies of this world, of this wicked world, since it's ran by, or the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Right, these things have taken hold of the people. All right, and us going against this system, okay, it disrupts the power of the ruling class. Okay, we start going against the grain. We start going against the grain of a people who expect total obedience. All right, being that we are the hopeful remnant in the elect, we refuse to give them obedience anymore. All right, so we do the best that we can do when it comes to walking back in our ways, not just blindly walking in the ways of this place. Okay, so let's go back to Esther. Esther chapter 3. All right, let's jump down here to 5. All right, it says, "And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath." All right, so we read here, the moment that Haman realized that Mordecai, I was not going to acknowledge him or his supremacy, right, or his rank or anything, he became furious. And this wasn't just, he wasn't like just annoyed. This dude got upset at it. And when you read that story, right, about the things that he was planning to do, you can tell that it wasn't just a thing that he brushed off. This really pissed him off, man. All right, it brought up that hatred that we read there in Genesis. Okay, it brought up the contrariness that we read about in Genesis from when we were in the womb. Okay, it was a deep, burning rage that it set off in him for this man to not reverence him. All right, and it comes from a spiritual grudge that has been passed down for thousands of years. You know, you have a lot of lesser Edomites who hate the shit out of Jake and probably don't even know why. All right, but this is why. All right, this is why. Just like you have the lowest of Jake, who always trying to find a way to make peace with a man who doesn't want peace with you. All right, you don't understand how deeply rooted this is. All right, the hatred, the contrariness, all right, the difference of spirit. All right, but the scriptures explain all things, man. Okay, so let's visit this in Ezekiel for a second. Let's go to Ezekiel. Okay, this hatred is going to lead to why the Lord destroys these people, man. This hatred has led to a lot of foul things being done to the Lord's people, and He doesn't take kindly to it. Even if you Jake out there do want to forgive him, it doesn't matter, man. This is all up to the Lord. All right, you fell for Esau's with the words that he speaks. You think this man is really peaceful, okay? And you really don't consider that some people who may look like Edomites are not actually so-called white people. They are your family. Israelites, because we were scattered and we are scattered into all nations of the earth. All right, but when it comes to actual Esau, Edom, the Lord isn't going to have any mercy on these people. All right, none. Let's get Ezekiel 35 and verse 5. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred. All right, before we go on in this verse, the top of Ezekiel 35, the heading reads, the prophecy against Mount Seir, just so you know who we're talking about here. All right, and that's not an actual mountain that the Lord is prophesying against. It's Esau and his dominion. Okay, his children, their children, right, all the way up until now. This is a prophecy against these people. All right. So again, Ezekiel 35 and 5, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, seeth thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So they have a judgment coming from the Lord, man. This is not something that is going to be uh this anger that the Lord has, right, isn't going to be put out by any of you, Jake, any of you Edomites, anybody. All right, this is the judgment that is set for these people. All right, so the modern global elite, all right, they have this same hatred, this perpetual hatred, this never-ending hatred against you, Jake, out there, man. Okay, and us. All right, all of us. All right, they're perfectly fine with us as long as we are singing, dancing. All right, just dribble the ball is what one lady said about LeBron. All right, even though LeBron wants to, I don't know what he wants to do. All right, but he's not in the truth though. I'll tell you that. All right, but as long as our people are doing that and staying asleep, ultimately, that's what it all comes down to. All right, staying asleep to who we are, they're fine with that. All right, but the moment us lowly woke up, right? Us lowly Israelites who got lighted on by the Spirit, all right? As long as we, uh, uh, or when we started to stand up in righteousness, all right, not acting a fool like a lot of Israelites do, okay? And once we started going against the grain of their system, coming back into whom we are, all right, they're starting to become full of wrath. All right, this is why things are happening the way that they are. All right. They see us standing up. They're scared, but they are going to try to fight against this truth. But there's nothing that you can do to change the Lord's judgment. A brother and I were reading about the Lord and his prophecies, and I like the way it said it. It said that the Lord's words are hard coded into the earth. All right. You're not going to change them. Everything is happening because of the word of the Lord. Your judgment, Esau, Edom, is going to happen because of the word of the Lord. The judgment for the 2/3 is going to happen because of the word of the Lord. Okay. So, as in Esther, right? As a matter of fact, we can go back there because we're about to speak about something else that hasn't changed with these people. All right, let's go back to Esther, chapter 3, verse 6. All right, these people in power are still on the same shit. All right, that we are reading about here in Esther that Haman was on. All right. Well, he ended up plotting a genocide, man. Okay. Now that shouldn't be too far fetched for anybody to understand, even today. Right? Not that the Palestinians over there have anything to do with that land, but you can see what Esau does to people. Okay. Excuse me. And since we are scattered into all nations of the earth, some of them people who call themselves Palestinians over there are Israelites, man, whether they know it or not. Okay, but that's just an example of what Esau does. Okay, so let's talk about this in Esther 3, and now we're going to jump to verse 6. Hold on a second here. All right, Esther 3, and now verse 6. It says, "And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai." All right, this is when Haman, all right, knows that the people of Mordecai is who, or are who? The Israelites. Okay, the real, the actual Jews, Judah, Levi, and Benjamin. Okay, and the Israelites. Okay, this is Mordecai's people. It says, it goes on to say, "Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai." All right, so this is where the true spirit of Esau is exposed here in Esther. All right, Haman didn't just want to punish or kill Mordecai. All right, he basically took crafty counsel, all right, trying to go the legal route to exterminate every single Israelite, which means man, woman, and child. All of them throughout the entire empire. All right, he wanted to wipe us off the face of the earth. All right, and he wanted to secure absolute dominance without anybody standing in his way, really. Okay, and this is the same shit that goes on behind the scenes today. They're always plotting. All right, and I'm not trying to say money is anything that you should love, right? Money is a defense and it helps us in this place. We have to do what we have to do to survive, right? But the more you see my Israelites getting money, okay, they had to do something about that, man. So change what money is. Okay, it's going to go digital. Now I'm not saying that's the only reason, all right, but that is a very big part of the reason. Okay. So let's visit all right, another verse speaking about this crafty counsel. Let's go to Psalm 83, of course. All right, hold on a second here. Let's go to Psalm the 83rd chapter and get a verse out of there. Hold on. They always up to something. Because a lot of you Israelites out there don't believe that because you believe Esau. All right, they threw a label on something called a conspiracy, and you got y'all motherfuckers just running to his word, listening to them, although his actions have proved what we have told you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. This is Psalm 83 and 4. All right, let's go straight to the point. It says, "They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." And we've brought this up before on this channel. If you don't know who you are, right? If the name of Israel, which is in the Paleo Hebrew, Yashar Allah, or He, the Prince of the Power, if you don't know who you are, all right, why would you even look to walk in the ways of a Prince of the Power? Okay, but if they tell you you're black, which is devoid of light, okay, basically nothingness compared to what they call themselves white, right? You're going to stay destroyed, man. Okay, you're going to stay destroyed. And this is a modern manifestation of what Haman was doing, his crafty counsel, right? Being slick about it. The modern ruling class operates exactly like him. Right? Their agendas today are never just about one individual. Right? It is a systemic plan against you. Now, we did talk about this before. I want to ask it again right now. I'm going to ask Google, what does it mean to have a systemic plan against you? Again, I'll just put against someone. Oops. Let's see what it says here. All right. It says having a systemic plan against someone means using broad, deeply ingrained structures, rules, or institutional policies to cause harm, disadvantage, or marginalization. It affects the target's entire environment or social system rather than being an isolated or random interpersonal attack. You see? All right, man. Phew. So, hold on. Let's go back here now. Hold on. What's I at? Hold on. Is this where I was at? Give me a second here. Okay. Okay. So basically, what I was telling you there is that the ruling class, Esau, Edom, right, use institutional plots against you, like prisons, right, engineered poverty, right, contaminated food, medical agendas, right, all of this to keep you as Israelites mentally dead and physically weakened. Right? What you don't understand is that their ultimate goal is to keep you from realizing who you are, man, so that they can keep, or so like they can try to get back to birthright. We talked about Genesis, and that's their whole thing. Right? That birthright that they gave away because it was nothing worth to them. Right? So now they want it back. Okay, they want to rule in this world and the kingdom to come. It's not going to happen. They want to rule the earth forever. It's not going to happen. All right. So hold on a second. Let me check this time because I might have to split this up into a couple of parts here. All right, yeah, I'm gonna cut this into a couple parts, man. So we're gonna leave off here. All right, Lord willing, we'll pick back up right here where we left off. So, Lord willing, this came through as edifying, all right, clear, and with that, we give all praise to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the prophets of doom. These are where I have learned this truth and where I'm still learning this truth. And also, I want to say shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number. And Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.